Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us all today for Reverse Book Club. We're so excited for Jake to be hosting this week with The One Thing. I just want to let you guys all know that if you love the book, if Jake makes it sound so amazing, which I'm sure he will, we have copies of it in the office for you. So if you wanted to purchase one, you can message myself or Julia and we can get a copy to you. All right, Jake, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Thanks everybody for showing up. This is actually my first reverse book club that I've hosted, so bear with me. I have read this book several times and taken notes and read it again and taken notes. It was, one of the books that really, when I made a commitment to get serious about my goals and what I wanted out of life, this served as kind of a step-by-step guide on, the tangible things that you can do to get there. And like they say about so many things, it might seem simple. It is not easy. Success is not easy. It takes focus and it takes work. And at the same time, anyone can do it. And this is one of the tools you can use. So today's purpose, I think, the reason that everybody's here, hopefully, is, whatever point you are in your career, in real estate and just in your life in general, oftentimes we feel like our time is not our own. We're confused about what priorities should rise to the top and get our focus. Oftentimes, I used to feel, and still do, that the time I'm spending, is it really giving me the results? Am I wasting my time because I'm not getting the results you want? And then on the flip side, what everyone wants is, a better life, success, happiness, free time, money, more business, time to spend with family, basically the freedom to do and have the things that you want and not have to, deal with the things you don't want. So this book, Carrie, it's not moving for me. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So this book, The One Thing, if you've read it or not, what it kind of focuses on and starts with is, we all look at those people that we admire and, we want to be where they are. We want to have the things that they have, or even just the idea of that, that life that we want to strive toward. And the truth is that everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, right? Like it's not like people that you look at and you think, wow, this person, has it all together. They've figured it out. They've cracked the code. They're just so naturally successful and everything comes to them and they're happy. They have the same time and they're no more, they're not brilliant. They're not smarter than you. They just have focused on certain habits that have driven them to success over time, not all at once, but over time. And the sooner that you get into those habits, the sooner that, you can move on and start to see results. So, the difference between where you might be and where you want to go is that those people, they're willing to take the roadmap and they're willing to focus on the things that other people aren't willing to focus on. And, once they figure those small things out, they commit to it, they get passionate about it, those small things, and then those things build on each other and move them forward and eventually drive them to want more success and reach higher heights. So to kind of illustrate this book does a great job with this domino example. So there was a physicist in 1983 named Lauren Whitehead. And he did this experiment with dominoes. And what he realized was that when you knock over a domino, it doesn't knock over the next domino with the same amount of force. It actually will knock it over with 1.5%, so 50% more power and force than would take that domino. So then what that does is it builds on the next one, the next one, the next one. So with each domino, as you can see in this example, you start with the real small one. That small one is able to knock over one that's 1.5 its size. Then that 1.5, bigger one is able to knock over the next one, the next one, and the next one. And, the way this works, it seems, very insignificant in the beginning. You're just knocking over a few small dominoes. If you really look at the results, what happens is by the 10th domino, you would be able to knock over, you'd be as big of a domino and as powerful to knock over Peyton Manning, okay? With the 18th domino, you'd be able to knock over the Leaning Tower of Pisa, then, the 31st domino, Mount Everest, and by the 57th, you'd be able to get to the moon. So, it's interesting to look at it that way because, that's physics, right? And we think about, well, this little domino, which represents what? Our efforts, our focus. I'm focusing on this little thing. How is this going to get me to where I want, this big goal, this big change? And what this book tries to show you and does a great job of showing you is if you get that first domino right, and if you hit it and hit it and hit it and hit it and hit it over time, the next domino will follow, and the next domino and the next domino and the next domino. You can't jump to domino 23 and expect it to be powerful. The way that you do it is starting at the beginning, doing it right, and doing it again and again and again. Okay. So there are 6 lies that mislead and derail us. And what that means is, we all wake up at the beginning of the day and, we've heard a lot of, things in our lives about, the way to be successful and the way to manage your day and what to focus on. And in reality, there are things that we've heard that we take as truths that are really untruths. They're misunderstandings, as we like to say. And you have to watch out for them, because they will definitely derail you. So the first one is that everything matters equally. And this is, best illustrated by our to-do list. So what a lot of people do is, they'll wake up in the morning or at the beginning of the week, and they'll, they have all these things to do in their personal life, in their business. I have to call back the inspector. I have to schedule these showings. I have to, write out a postcard. I have to, get my logo right. I have to, get my Facebook profile right and start a campaign to do that. And the truth is that you'll never do all that stuff. And what you end up doing is, you might get caught on that, on that Facebook profile page, and you might spend the whole day on it, and then you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll say, well, I did all that. I don't really see any results. I guess I'll go, to the next thing and then the next thing. So what you need to do, and what this book helps you do, is pick out the focus, the things that you need to be focusing on that will drive everything forward, and do those things before you do anything else, and do it day after day after day after day. And this is super difficult because, you have this feeling inside you that if you're not getting everything done, you're failing, right? And, I've been through that. It's an uneasy feeling. The truth about it is what you'll find is, those things, the important things get done, and the things that don't matter so much kind of fall to the wayside or get done by someone else. But if you don't focus on those things that you absolutely need to do, then you're going to get in trouble. So the next myth, who, by a show of hands, who's great at multitasking? I can't see everybody on here, but I would assume one person would raise their hand. So multitasking, and I tell my wife this all the time, not to throw her under the bus, but is a myth. And, you know, there was a time, you know, where the concept was super popular, you know, that, you know, I can work and I can take care of the kids and I can do this project while I'm doing this and doing that. And what it does is it actually derails you from having a productive day. You know, there is no such thing as multitasking. What there is I'm doing this work, and then there's a switch cost. There's time that I need to stop doing this work, reorient myself with, you know, these emails, then stop doing those emails, reorient myself to this offer. And the time that's lost in there adds up, you know, minute after minute, hour after hour. So instead, what you need to do, and this goes back to the first step, you know, you need to identify the most important things and make sure those things are uninterrupted. You know, make sure they're at the beginning of the day, they're uninterrupted, and then you can go on to the next thing and focus on that. And what you'll find is even if you had 5 things, you're going to do them better in a shorter amount of time if you do them one after the other versus trying to switch back and forth. So I wanted to do a little exercise with you guys if you're ready. If you have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, awesome. Okay. So what we have here is, you know, I actually want you to do 1 through 15 and A through L. Okay. And I'm going to start my timer. When I say go, I want you to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And write as soon as you finish that, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Okay. We're going to do a little experiment here. All right. So when you're done, Allison, because I can see you, raise your hand. All right. On your mark, get set, go. Okay. 16.78 seconds. All right. Now what I want you to do is I want you to write all, you know, all at the same time, 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, and so on, all the way up to 15. Okay, so on your mark, get set, go. $27 seconds. So what does that tell us? Anyone?
That I don't have the alphabet memorized.
That you don't have the alphabet memorized, and very few people do. So when I was doing this exercise, you know, what I realized is, you know, I do have it memorized when I'm in the alphabet frame of mind, right? When I have to go back and remember, okay, wait, what comes after H, you know, but just even for a split second, you're taking your mind out of, you know, what's already blocked in there. You know, you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So remember this exercise because it's going to be very easy for you to fall back into these habits of, okay, I'm working, I'm checking emails, I'm doing comps. I'm going to go back to the emails, back to the comps. I'm going to check my text messages. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You need that discipline, and you need those little reminders to say, I'm going to have, the patience and understanding to hold off the urge to do the comps until I've answered the emails. I'm going to do the comps, and I'm not going to answer the text message until I've sent the comps and done what I have to do with that. It's a super powerful, little tool and thing to remember. Okay. The third lie, a disciplined life. So, this is when we think about super successful people, I think we assume that they are born disciplined. They are born knowing that, successful people get up at 5 a.m. Successful people are never late. Successful people, know the importance of follow-up. Successful people know the importance of keeping a calendar of, doing trainings of doing this and doing that. And it's a myth. What successful people understand is that it is important to build habits, and there are important habits that drive you forward. And once you build those habits, then it doesn't take that discipline, because you've built that habit. Then you can go on to the next habit. So this 66 day, we're going to actually send you a 66-day sheet. And when we're through with this and we've all picked out our habit, our number one focus that we're going to start with, I'm going to challenge each of you to commit to that 66-day of doing it, that one thing that you set out to do every day for 66 days. And what you'll find is that once it may be 50 days, it may be, 75 days before you really, the habit is second nature. But once you've developed that habit, suddenly it's uncomfortable not to do that activity, right? So, if your habit, if the most important thing to you was, I want to keep a good calendar. And in order to do that, I need to, every Sunday night, I need to write out my calendar so that I know what to do, for the week. You might do that, if you don't commit to that, doing that one activity of scheduling your week, you might do it, the first 2 Sundays, and then you're going to kind of go back to your default settings. There's going to be stuff that comes up, whatever. Once you develop that habit, though, after the 66 days and after the habits develop, your mind will be uncomfortable if you're not sitting down, filling out your calendar. And so you can kind of see how, what you're doing is you're leveraging your subconscious, you're leveraging, those habits, you're leveraging these tools so that you don't have to think about it, and you're kind of, you're growing and you can focus on the next habit and the next habit and the next habit. A couple things that are important to remember: you need to start with the most important habit, and you don't go on to a second habit before the first habit is achieved, is mastered, is natural. Yeah. Okay. The fourth lie: willpower is always on will call. Excuse me, let me take a little drink here. Okay, so here's another lie, and another assumption that, you see, even, with athletes, very successful professional athletes, you assume that, they're successful because they have willpower. They're naturally, they have that drive. And even when they don't feel like doing stuff, they will get up and, do the exercises and do the training. And in reality, your body is like, a battery, right? And your willpower is like a battery. So in the morning, you wake up and, after you've had your coffee and after you do all your stuff, you have a full tank, you have a full battery, and you are able to make decisions that are more difficult. You're able to do things like, exercising or, things that are uncomfortable a lot easier with a lot less stress. As you go through the day, that willpower is depleted. It starts to deplete. And what will happen is you either recharge by taking a break or, eating something or resting or, doing something enjoyable, or you will continue through your day. And, when the tough decisions come, when you have to, do the activities that you've been putting off that are important, you won't do them, So what, the tools to remember with this one is, are the important activities, the most important activities that you have to do. Your one thing, whatever that is, it's best to do in the morning, and it's best to, build that habit around that particular time, because, you're never going to want to do it usually. The most important things people don't want to do, because, successful people do what other people aren't willing or, aren't willing to do. But you will have the best chance of succeeding at it, so build those habits into the morning, commit to those habits for 66 days, and then, do the second most important thing afterward. Okay, number 5, lie, a balanced life. So this one's a little tricky because all of our lives are crazy, right? But, it's another lie because it's something you hear that, you can have a work-life balance where you're constantly switching to, hey, I'm focusing on the kids, and then I'm also doing work, or I'm, trying to go on date night, and then, shifting over. And it doesn't work. There's, you need to commit to one thing, the priority, and then kind of counterbalance, as the other, so you're committing to something important to you with work. And while you're doing that, you're not ignoring, but you're counterbalancing with your personal life. And then you're committing to personal life, and you're kind of counterbalancing so it doesn't, blow up your business, so kind of, it's hard to visualize. This isn't one of my favorites, but there it is. Okay. 6th one, lie, which is absolutely one of my favorites, is that big is bad. And I think that, speaking from experience, setting huge goals is a scary thing, to say that, I want to make $100 million seems totally insane. And, some people might say greedy, and some people might say, I'm totally not qualified for that. All those things. And the reason, it's not bad. The bigger you set your goals and the bigger you set your outcome, the better everything around you and in you will be. It'll cause you to grow personally and professionally, get out of your comfort zone, and achieve amazing things. What people need to remember is that when you're setting those huge goals, you are not the person, sitting there setting those goals. You can't expect yourself to feel like the person that would be living those big goals, because again, you go back to that domino example. You're that first domino, and your goal is to get to the moon, it seems totally insane. But if you set that goal of getting to the moon, you can see how the natural progression, and you focus on that first and most important domino, you can see how that natural progression will get you there. The mistake that people make is, so say you understood and agreed with everything that I said, about setting goals, and you committed to the first goal. If you have a small, end goal, you will commit to, a small focus, and you'll get great at that small focus, and your actions will support, that small outcome. And then you'll turn around, 5 years later, and you will be a trained master at a small outcome, so why not, if you believe that it works, if you believe that the system works, why not shoot for that huge goal? And then if you decide, hey, I'm going to retire after, my 5th year because I'm making so much money and I have so much business, you can do that. But what happens is, if you train yourself to be the person that fits into the small outcome, it's much, much harder at that point to retrain yourself for a bigger goal, so shoot for those big goals. Okay, so now we get to the focusing question. So this is, kind of, what it's all about. What is this one thing? What is this first domino? How do I get there, and how do we determine it? So you start by goal setting to the now. All right. You start, instead of looking at, all right, what do I need to do today? Instead of just, looking at all the activities and, thinking what the most important is, you start with that big goal now. And you ask, and this is going to take some time, it's going to take some focus. So when you leave here today, your first step is looking at that, big goal for the future. Where do you want to be, in 5 years or 10 years? What are you passionate about? What, if somebody, turning back 5 years or 5 years ahead, if you turned around and said, oh my God, I did it. This is amazing. This is, bigger than my wildest dreams. And I'm serious about that. That's the way you have to think, like uncomfortable goal setting. And then you work backwards. Okay. So thinking like that, ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do someday that is in alignment with my purpose, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. So I want you to think about that. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes. I want you to think about that, and I want you to write down, a 5 or 10 year reality, but something tangible, not just money, although if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But, what does your life look like that you can, that you're able to describe and you're able to judge, did I get there? What does this look like? So even if it's, in 5 or 10 years, I get to a place where, I can start a nonprofit because, I've built my business up to a point where I'm 7th level and I have agents working for me. I have a manager managing them, and I can step out of it and I can go live on the beach. Whatever that is, I want you to think about it. I want you to, just don't put limits on it, and just write down some things so that later you can go back to that and pick it back up and spend some more time on it. And don't stop writing till we say stop, as they always say. You know, you're just, as you continue to write, you'll continue to think of more things and get more specific about what that looks like. Okay, keep going. About 1 more minute left. Remember, be as specific as you can so that you can hold the goal accountable. About 20 seconds. All right, for those of you who are done, I want you to look at what you wrote, and I want you to pick out one of the big, one big thing, one tangible thing that, that you're going to focus on, for this short exercise. Okay. So what is one very big tangible thing that you can focus on? Then I want to ask, so that's your someday goal. Okay. Then I want you to ask yourself and, write down something based on my someday goal. What's the one thing that I can do in the next 5 years to be on track to achieve it? In other words, what do I have to do to achieve what do I have to do to achieve in 5 years to be confident I will achieve my someday goal? After you're done with that, I want you to ask yourself, based on my 5-year goal, what's one thing I can do this year to be on track to achieve my 5-year goal, so that I'm on track to achieve my someday goal? What do I have to do to achieve this year to be confident I will achieve my 5-year goal? So what do you have to do this year that's going to put you, what's the most important thing you can achieve this year that's going to put you on track for that 5-year goal? After that, I want you to ask yourself, based on my 1-year goal, what's the one thing I can do this month to be on track? After you write that down, based on my monthly goal, what's the one thing I can do this week to be on track? Then based on my weekly goal, what's the one thing I can do today to be on track? Then based on your daily goal, what's the one thing you can do right now to be on track? And that last piece is pretty important. And you can, switch out right now for after this meeting. But it's oftentimes the thing that makes the difference between not doing anything and reaching the goal. I remember when I was in Bold a few years back, I said I wanted to buy an island. And so what's the one thing I can do to, to increase my chances of this day, this month, this year? And so I did research on, all the available small islands that were for sale, and of course, like something like that might seem silly, but it it reinforces your goals with, your actions and your mind and your thinking, and that small step of action starts you on the right path toward everything. So write down what you're going to do after this meeting that's going to set you up for your daily, weekly, monthly, 1 year, 5 year, someday goal. And what you'll see, going back to the domino example, is you've lined up your dominoes. Now, the focusing question is something that, you may have heard. I know I've said it several times, but it's another huge takeaway that you can use for your business goals. You can use for, all goals in every facet of your life. And it's important, from personal experience, when I did this for the first time, it takes a little while to really get to the bottom of it, get to the truth, because, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. Your first instinct will go to the things that are easy and unnecessary. Your mind will not go to the things that are hard, uncomfortable. Oh, I don't do that. That's not part of my business model, yada, yada, yada. So you really have to spend some time with that question. And, ask yourself, if I wasn't uncomfortable about anything, if I didn't think, if I didn't have these preconceived notions about certain activities, whatever, what would be the one thing that if I did it every day would make my goals and the things that I wanted to achieve easier, and would make the other stuff that I had to do either easier or unnecessary? Go back to that to-do list. What could I do? What could I focus on that would make 80% of this list really unnecessary? Because if I knock this thing out of the park and got the results that I wanted from this one thing, and doing it day in and day out, over and over, and building that habit, honestly, I don't need a Facebook page, or I can do that on my free time. I don't need a postcard because I'd be getting, plenty of business. I don't need to focus on this. I don't need to focus on that. Or I definitely don't need to focus on it until I've done that one thing, because that one thing has proven to get so many, bigger results. Okay, so this is kind of a summary, in another roadmap, the simple path to productivity. So, you start out by asking a great question, and the exercise that we did, I challenge you to do it in every facet of your life, personal, spiritual, business, family, health, everything like that. Ask a great question, think big and specific, and then you'll find a great answer. Okay. And then you research the best way to do it, and you role model. So the focusing question, determine, what that is. And then you start with a small focus. Okay. So, again, it's common for people to, they do a class like this, and some good information, some not so good. They have a good time. They don't. They go back and they get back into their default setting and their old habits. If you remember that importance, in order to reach that big result, you have to start small, and you just focus on that small domino. Everything else, will come from that. So, think big, and remember that, before you stop thinking about, these steps, or you move on, you need to determine what that small first domino is. What is the thing that I'm going to do that I've determined will lead to the next thing, next thing, next thing, my, amazing life? What is that first domino? And once you've identified that, you need to commit to doing it for 66 days. You need to commit, and you don't have to think anymore necessarily about, how you're going to get to that huge goal. All you have to do is think about how you're going to build this very important habit into your life. Oops. Oh, wow. This is cool. Okay. So you have that purpose, you develop the priority, you get into action, and then you have results and production. Now, the power of purpose is kind of why you need to, after this call, spend a little more time really looking at that someday goal, because in order for it to have the best chance of success, you need to be passionate about it. It needs to be aligned with your purpose. It needs to, I found, just personal story, and some people talk about that someday goal as a big why, if you've heard about that big why. And, it was explained to me when I was struggling with it, what can you do where they would build monuments, for you? How could you leave this world where they would build monuments because you left this world better than yourself, better than you got it? And so that helped me think about it. And what I came to is, I want to build up my business so that it supports my ability to start a nonprofit to help young kids with a lot of the mindset that we've been blessed with in this business, like a lot of the exercises of building confidence and doing all these things. So I wrote that out. I became, passionate about it, and it helped drive, my other goals and the things that I, really didn't necessarily want to do on a daily basis. It kept me on track to do those things. So you can see this iceberg here. And what this illustrates is, when you see the tip of an iceberg coming out of the ocean, what you don't realize is that the majority of that iceberg is buried under the sea, right? It takes, the foundation of it to be built on, to be built on, to be built on before it peaks through and you see the productivity and profit and amazing results, so it's helpful to, remember that. Don't get discouraged, keep going with that purpose, keep going with those activities, those habits, so that you can build the habits, build the production, and finally the profit. Okay. This goes back to, my example before. So you take this into business, you take it into, your spiritual life, physical, personal relationships. You can take I do it with, friends, personal relationships, everybody's busy, whatever. So what would my social life with my friends look like, ideally, in a year, because now we kind of see each other, we don't, I'm making an effort, they're not making an effort, or vice versa. What's the one thing I can do to commit to do every day so that, I'll hit my, week goal, month goal, and it seems kind of unusual and unorthodox to do it that way. And yet, you will find that by identifying those habits, you will actually end up, being able to have a life by design. if any of you have taken bold. And start with the most important things. Start with business and personal, or start with business and health, if that's something that you're really struggling with, and commit to that first habit, that first domino. Okay, so now we really get to the the brass tacks and the actual activities that you have to do in order to set yourself up for success. I said at the beginning that it's massive success in any area of your life is simple. And all this, if you look at it, is simple. It's not easy because, you're not necessarily going to want to do it. And it's obviously not your norm. It's not a built-in habit. It's not something you're comfortable with. So once you've identified that, that one thing, your first domino, your priority, you need to time block it actually into your life. So the typical day, again, going back to that to-do list, your one thing is a fraction of what is important, and everything else takes up 80% of your time. And you have to shift, and you have to be comfortable shifting to a different mindset as far as your time blocking. You need to time block at least half of your productive time, especially in the beginning, to what that one thing is. And you need to guard that time, and you need to commit to that time to focusing on that one thing so that you don't get distracted with everything else. So the protecting your time blocking is also important, but this kind of gives you a kind of a way to think about it. So the first thing you do, so you're looking at, say you have a blank calendar for the week. The first thing you do is you time block your time off. You say, okay, well, or if you're looking, ideally you look at the year calendar. I want to take a vacation every quarter. So I'm going to, write in a week here, a week next quarter, so on and so forth. Second thing, time block your one thing. So you're going to look at your, weekly, monthly, yearly, and you're going to look at those days, and you're going to time block that one thing early in the morning and for, at least 2 to 3 hours of the day. And you're going to work in time to take breaks if you need to, time to reset, time to refuel so that you have that, that willpower and that discipline. Then you're going to time block your planning time. So, if this is something I said before, that, ideally you would set, most of this in the beginning, but then you have to look week by week and get more specific with, a lot of your time. So scheduling that maybe Sunday evening time block to plan out the week, because, your calendar is your life. If it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. And then, the last thing is protect your time block. So you need to commit to, if it's on there, you need to do it, and you don't need to do everything on your calendar at the beginning, but you start with protecting, committing to that one thing first thing in the morning, and you protect it and you commit to doing it. So this is another example of that. So when you're doing your one thing, you're going to be, you're going to still have distractions, and you're going to have people that want to, take your time, people that want to ask questions, people that want to go get breakfast, people that, want to ask you questions. So you need to build a bunker when you're doing, this, when you're committing to this habit and you've time blocked and you're sitting there doing this activity that will lead you to the next thing and the next thing. You need to be in a place where you're least likely to be distracted and pulled away. So for some people, it's, turning off, being in a place like the office where, the kids aren't going to come in, where you don't have laundry sitting over there that you could do, where you're not at your house and you can turn on the TV, all that sort of stuff. So think of all the potential distractions that, you're faced with on a normal daily basis when you're trying to be productive, and commit to going to a place where those are least likely to happen. Second is store provisions. You want to make sure that you have, if you eat lunch, you have the lunch there. You don't have to go out and, go out into the world and get distracted and do whatever. You're committing to, being there for that amount of time that you time block for, and you have provisions to do it. Sweep for minds is kind of the same thing. Certain things, surprises that could come up, just look for potential things. And then enlist support, like look for, once you commit to that activity, share it with your spouse or significant other or your kids, and explain, this is my time that, I've committed because it's going to take me to my goals that I want to reach, and that, will make an impact on all of us. And I need your support to, to help me on this path, because it's going to be difficult at times, to build these habits and to grow myself. And then accountability, the studies have shown, it, as simple as that first thing I said, where, you write down what you're going to do today, or right now, that's going to lead to your next goal. If you have goals and you write them down, a lot of people just say, I want to be successful, and they show up to work every day, and, there's really nothing to hold them accountable to that, because success means a different thing to so many different people, so if you even just write down your goals and visit those goals on a regular basis, you're 39%, almost 40% more likely to hit those goals. And then if you have an accountability partner, someone who either someone in the office or a coach or, staff here, someone that you share those goals with, and you say, this is my, start as simple as hold me accountable to my daily activity that I committed to doing for these 66 days. Check in with me once a week or once a day and ask me, did I do what I committed to doing for this period of time? Did I do it or didn't I do it? And if you just set up that, that relationship, that accountability partner, you're 77% more likely to succeed. Okay. That's all I got. Any questions? I can't see anybody. No? All
Doesn't
right.
look like we have any. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. I had a great time. Hope you took away something.
We'll send you out the 66 steps as a follow-up, and also a workbook to the one thing that you can look at in your own time. And if you ever have any questions on the one thing, feel free to ask Jake, myself, or anyone else on the leadership team. We'd be happy to talk about it with you. We also have copies of the one thing in the office if you wanted to pick one up. Thank you all.